It's finally happened, the moment we've all been waiting for. Episode 5, Obi-Wan Kenobi, we see Dark Helmet. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about some flashback content. In this episode, it starts off with Obi-Wan and Anakin training, and it kind of mirrors the entire episode and is woven throughout the episode itself. I'm actually kind of surprised that this was taken from the perspective of Vader and not from Obi-Wan, and it is Vader that is hunting Obi-Wan and trying to remember how Obi-Wan thinks and his tactics, and Obi-Wan is actually doing the same exact thing on the opposite side, thinking, okay, I know Anakin, this is what he likes to do, he just kind of is headstrong and runs in before he makes a fully fledged plan, he's not going to do a prolonged siege, so Obi-Wan knows this as well, and the whole episode kind of feels like a chess match, where one makes a move and the other reacts and tries to throw the other off a little bit. Mostly Obi-Wan trying to throw off Vader more than Vader's trying to throw off Obi-Wan, but that's just kind of how the whole episode plays out. The flashback scene itself, I loved. It wasn't a whole episode, which I really would have loved, but it was really good at showing Anakin's thought process, especially at that age. I was surprised they went with a Padawan Anakin and not one closer to episode 3, a Jedi Knight Anakin, who is a little more refined, but I guess it makes sense because a younger Anakin would have less control over his emotions, so it's more of his base nature, which I think they're kind of referring to like Vader being the base anger of Anakin and using the same kind of tactics as a unrefined Anakin like he was closer to the events of episode 3. Reva became Grand Inquisitor, but it was more like Vader saying like, oh yeah, sure, you can become Grand Inquisitor. Wink, wink. Yeah, just why don't you go down and take out those rebels for me real quick. It'll be a simple, easy task. I just realized my background wasn't up until now, so we're just gonna throw it in and keep moving. But Princess Leia, I thought, was really cute this episode, but at the same time, I also felt like her task was just kind of thrown in there to give her something to do, because they didn't want her just standing around the whole episode. But you know, I like how confident she is and just immediately was like, okay, yep, that's something I can do, here I am. And I did like that about her. But I knew Hajar was going to be back, and he came back and dropped the ball a little bit at the end with that transponder. But it does make a little more sense, I guess, now after this episode, why Reva didn't kill him on Daiyu, because really she's only concerned about killing Vader. I still think she might have killed him in that situation, and it still feels a little weird she didn't, but I think that's kind of what they're going at, is she's not entirely evil. She doesn't want to kill everybody. She will, no questions, but really she just wants to kill Vader, and if killing you doesn't really serve a purpose, then she's probably not gonna do it. I think that was probably the biggest revelation, though, that probably a lot of people saw coming in some fashion. She definitely did not come back to the light side, and she's not like secretly on the light side just trying to kill Vader and that's it. She is fully in the dark side and using dark side of the Force at every turn. She's still gonna kill people as she deems necessary and not really think twice about it. But really, just the revelation is that her goal is to kill Vader, and we saw the aftermath of the Jedi Temple incident. I definitely called it, that she did not escape the Jedi Temple, nor did any of the other Padawans in there. But I love that scene, and I mean, that's a brand new scene. Hayden Christensen came back and filmed that, and you saw the clones and him just murdering a whole bunch of younglings, which, wild. But it was really fun, and he ends up actually stabbing her in that scene, and she just didn't die, I guess. So it makes me wonder a little bit, like, how did she get to become an Inquisitor still? Because if she wasn't spared by Anakin, that just means, like, I guess Palpatine just walked in the door after him and he was gone and just strolled by and was like, oh, look, you're still awake. How would you like some candy? I've got some back in my truck here and we can just, drive away. So that's kind of what I am envisioning happened to her and how she became an Inquisitor. I also really like the scene where Obi-Wan was giving a speech to all the rebels. It felt like he was kind of stepping back into his former general self and giving orders and inspiring hope and really becoming what a Jedi is supposed to be again, and kind of rediscovering that he does actually give a shit about people. With the Imperials laying siege to the door, I thought it was a really good scene between the third sister and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan kind of figured it out that Reva wasn't really hunting him. She was like kind of by proxy hunting him to get to Vader and become Grand Inquisitor so that she could stand close to Vader, I guess. But Obi-Wan figured it out and said, like, hey, why don't we team up together? We can take him out together, which she brought up a really good point. And it's a little bit of foreshadowing, I think, because she said, do you even want him dead? Like, clearly you don't want him dead. And I think that's foreshadowing to their eventual next fight, or maybe a fight or two from now. And Obi-Wan is going to whoop Vader. He has to, I think, again. But he is not going to kill him. He's going to try to bring him back to the light side, but he's not going to try to kill him this time. And that's why I think essentially he's going to... That was why that was foreshadowing, because he doesn't want to kill him. And I think we're going to see that even still, he does not want him to die. Tala ends up dying in this episode too, which is, you know, it's almost kind of an afterthought to me because there were so many other big things that happened in this. But yeah, she died and her droid died, and she ended up blowing herself up with a grenade, which makes me think a little bit like when they opened the door and like 100 stormtroopers rushed in. Why don't you just, like, you know, throw one of those thermal detonators there at the bottom when they're all clustered together in that hallway there? Seems like that would have been a really good time to take out a large chunk of them if you had a thermal detonator on you the whole time. I don't know, just saying. I'm not a tactician or anything, but that seems like it might have been a better time to use it than when you were killed. And she was like the only person killed. You had like 100 stormtroopers, and I guess true to stormtrooper canon, they can't hit anything because there was like a line of people standing there and they missed a lot of people. But, you know, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritties of the fight there. That was just something that I did notice. Possibly the best part of the episode, though, was when Vader came in, strolled in, and just used the Force to pull the ship back down after it had tried to take off, then completely obliterated as he, like, pulls it apart and just blows the whole thing up. And honestly, at this point, I don't think you can really argue that the dark side of the Force is stronger. It's clearly stronger. I've never seen a light side user do anything quite like that. Reva tries to then assassinate Vader, and it's just so far from being a close match, it is comical. Vader doesn't even ignite his lightsaber. He just is like using the Force to whip her lightsaber around. And then at one point he's like, yep, I'll take your lightsaber. And it feels like he's almost instructing a child, which, I mean, I guess to him, she kind of is. But, you know, I thought the whole fight was really fun, though, and really, really interesting. And I loved how it almost felt like a dance, and he's kind of like practicing, and he's finding it very amusing that Reva was going to try to kill him. Eventually, though, he reveals that he recognized Reva from the temple, and he's like, yeah, I remember stabbing you, you stupid Padawan. You know, I'm going to do it again right here. And that's not really surprising at all, I don't think. I feel like Anakin Vader remembers every Jedi he's killed, and I think he uses it as kind of hate to fuel his dark side powers, and hate for the Jedi Order, hate for himself, for what he's become, and that just makes him more powerful. So I do think he remembers literally every Jedi he's killed. I honestly could have seen Vader rewarding that kind of behavior too, where she tried to assassinate him and been like, you know what, good on you. Way to use those dark side powers, and, you know, keep that hate up and keep trying to use that, you know, use your hate from me against all these other people. So honestly, I could have seen that happening at some point, but nah. The Grand Inquisitor just shows up and reveals that, oh, hey, look, I'm still alive, which I think we all knew, and if you have seen Rebels, you definitely knew that he wasn't going to die there. But he shows back up and makes kind of a funny joke where he's like, oh, yep, revenge is a great way to stay alive for that need to fulfill your revenge, which is also kind of funny because they left her there, and I feel like it's, you know, they didn't kill her, like, her need for revenge isn't going to keep her alive. It seems like it very well might keep her alive. It kept her alive the first time, kept you alive, it kept them all alive, it kept Anakin alive, kind of kept Palpatine alive. Like, really, if you're using the dark side of the Force, I really feel like you gotta kind of finish the job, you know, Dooku style. But anyways, they leave her, and then she finds what I like to call a plot device. I have no idea why Bail Organa would send that message to Obi-Wan. That's, first of all, setting aside the fact that he reveals like a lot of very sensitive information in that transmission, I think it is wild that he thinks that if Obi-Wan doesn't show up, he's gonna go need to help Owen raise Luke. Owen's last words were literally, I don't need you, go away. Like, literally go die somewhere. I don't need you, I'm fine on my own. And that's just wild. Like, what, Bail, why would you go and kidnap this farm boy to raise him? Like, isn't that not gonna draw some suspicion when an Imperial senator goes and adopts a farm boy from an outer rim planet? Like, to me, that, I think everybody can agree that was kind of ridiculous. And it was just the most like, hey, we need to move the plot forward a little bit. Here we go. Let's use this thing real quick. But I guess Reva knows everything, and she's now the all-knowing Inquisitor, so I think if this was filmed with no intention of a sequel to the series, then she's probably gonna die with that information in the next episode. Though I could see if they were like, oh, you know, we might have a sequel, and it might be good to keep her alive. I could see her, you know, kind of escaping with that information, but I honestly really feel like she has to die with that information. There really shouldn't be anyone else in the galaxy with that kind of knowledge at this point in time, I don't think. Not to say it's not possible, because it's definitely possible, but I really feel like it wouldn't make sense. Like, where would she go? And what would she do with this information? I doubt she dropped her vendetta against Vader, so she's probably going to go try to kill him again at some point if she were still alive, which makes me think that she's going to die in the next episode. But then in the next episode, I am confident that there's going to be another showdown between Obi-Wan and Vader, and I definitely think that Obi-Wan is going to eventually make contact with Qui-Gon at some point. He's going to really reestablish his connection to the Force, and I kind of feel like that's going to be like a very end scene, possibly like a post-credits type scene, and I would like that a lot, because to me, if they are having a sequel series, which is rumored, then I could see that being a great storyline for a sequel series of him discovering like things beyond the death and the Force afterlife, talking to Qui-Gon and learning more about the spiritual side of the Jedi. But I really liked this episode overall. I thought it was fantastic. I liked the tension. Ewan McGregor is killing it as Obi-Wan. Darth Vader is super threatening. Don't really care about the Inquisitors as much as I kind of hoped I would in this, because that makes sense though, because how could you not get overshadowed by if you have Vader and Obi-Wan on screen? But I hear that next Wednesday there might be a theatrical release of the final episode, which I will definitely be going to if it is offered somewhere near me. But let me know, what did you guys think of this episode, and how do you think this season is gonna end? I say season because, you know, there might be another season, and it's maybe not a series, but I hope there is another season. Anyway, let me know what you thought down below. I'm Keegs. I'll catch you all next week for some more Star Wars content.